We may or may not be live already. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Alex.
Let me just check in the group real quick if we are actually live already. I think we are. Yay.
Yay.
Beautiful. So welcome, parents. Welcome everyone who's watching, even if you're parenting yourself. Today we have here my wonderful friend, Christine O'Brien. And I'll just let her introduce herself in a minute here herself, because she can probably do a better job. But needless to say, she's awesome, because we're only inviting awesome people here who know what they're really doing. And yeah, and the other thing is we've been friends for a few years. We used to be kind of neighbors. Our kids know each other, and we've been growing our coaching business alongside each other for a couple of years now and been on this crazy journey together. So welcome. And let's see, yeah, let me switch it to gallery view so we can both see each other better. So Christine, welcome. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we've known each other for a while on our mothering journey and our coaching journey and finding ourselves in that way. And really great to be here and share some ideas. Specifically what I do, I'm the founder of Creating Calm Coach, and I help families have harmony at home by clearing clutter and strengthening relationships. And so it came from me. My whole career has been in child development and helping families and teachers kind of create environments and create relationships that are supportive of optimal growth and learning and connection. So yeah, and I became a mother and was like, whoa, need a lot of support myself to do this in the way that I really want to. And so I was actually just thinking about, we're coming to the end of a decade, and this decade has all been about my mothering journey and how like wild that is. My daughter is 7, and so it has been like a decade of motherhood and becoming the mom that I want to be. So I'm excited to just share how discovering simplicity parenting and simplifying the home through KonMari method has really enabled me to step towards being the mom that I want to be. So that's, I think, where talk about my specialty is that clearing clutter and creating relationships. So that's what we'll kind of dive into today. And do you have any specific question about it, or where I should just start diving?
Yeah, let's just see where it wants to go, and if we have any questions come in. But yeah, what you were just saying about the last decade of parenting, I'm feeling very similar. And my daughter is now 9, and just when I was looking at my passport that is expiring next month, and it's in Germany, they're valid 10 years, I was like, oh, when I had that picture taken, when I had that passport made, I was not a mother yet. And like now I'm like such a mother, and it's been such a growth, healing, learning process. And yeah, I was feeling the same way. Like, what's this next decade going to be about? We're going to have teenagers.
Whoa, it'll be fun. Our
Yeah.
girls are amazing. Yeah, it's gonna be challenging and fun, just as it has been this whole time.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me think of more recently what I've come to realize through helping people clear clutter is like going through your stuff is like holding the mirror up to you and this opportunity for you to decide who you want to be, which is a really, I think we were both talking about motherhood and the kind of mother that we want to be. And so clutter is, in one level, just really physical, and you look at it and it stresses you out, and it gets in the way of developing relationships, especially with kids, because you look at it and you're stressed and you can't find things. So then you're ending up late. A lot of times we have to go places with kids and get them to school or get to the doctor, get to places on time. And when we have clutter getting in the way of that, it's just adds to the stress and then the break in relationship if we're not able to prepare for like we're gonna have to leave at a certain time and do all the things that kind of prepare you for leading up to having a smooth morning routine or smooth getting out of the house. And then the other aspect of that physical was I know particularly for moms and women that I specialize working with, but also there's studies looking at how clutter affects women. And literally you look at clutter and the more pieces there are of clutter, the more cortisol or stress hormone you have in your brain. So you're like feeling the stress because it's really like scientifically proven. Like you feel out like chaotic because that's what's happening in your brain and your body when that's happening. And then you can't find your keys and like and then you're snapping at your kids, and then it's like getting out of the door. Just like every time can be like just a time when you feel like that disconnection and the pressure. And I definitely grew up with that like 30-minute rush around like quickly. And there were 3 of us in the family. My mom was single mom, and so then there's some added elements there, but just that rush. And I feel now like more of an aversion to having that stress and pressure getting out of the door because of my childhood and how that affects it. But yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, it sounds very much like a lot of these spiritual teachings too, that teach like as above so below, as without so we within, or a lot of the misery or life situations or drama that we're attracting in life is actually because of our subconscious programming, and so maybe let's take a simple step back and just start first, like, what is even like the definition of clutter?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, just having a lot of stuff around. Usually when I talk to people on the phone, what they're upset about is like too much stuff. And then you have this stuff around the house that doesn't have a home. People aren't putting things back where things go and you can't find it. So it is. And in that study I mentioned, it was like they counted like how many things are on the counters and the tables. And, they're like counting pieces of materials around. And so I think if I think of it as like things not in their homes, like if there's a lot of pieces of stuff but they're like obviously they go in this basket, or like things that are just in disarray around in the home or school or whatever the environment is that you're in. Yeah.
So basically it's like having way too many things, more than you think you need, and holding on. Obviously hoarding is probably another level of this, right? Mm-hmm. But then just so clutter is just like having way too many things that don't have an obvious home where they live all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where you're not putting things like for an adult or a child there, you get something out and you use it and then you don't know where to put it back, or you just don't put it back. And so then things are like, that's why you can't find things, because you don't have the home for them.
Yeah.
And then once you establish the home, then it's establishing the habit of helping your kids remember to put things away, or for yourself of like, are you putting things back where they go? First of all, do they have a place? Do people know about it? And are they doing it? So it's like all these. And then on top of that would be like, is there just too much stuff? Is it someone, like you mentioned hoarding, and that's definitely a different level. But there is like when you have too much stuff and it just like doesn't fit in its home and it's spilling out, or I don't know, my daughter has gotten into those calico critters. Like there's just like,
oh yeah, I just heard about those too.
They're like an interesting, and we're like try to be like simple and minimalist, and she really got into these, and she has an allowance now. And it is that like I can see this idea of just wanting more.
Yeah,
Not
like
being satisfied, and
all
not
the time.
building relationships with her stuff. when there's too many. Like there was just one little family of these little, they're like little animal people things, and they have house and car and all those like dollhousey things. And then you start to just have too many, and you can't, especially a kid, but also adults, can't build relationship with your stuff.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
That makes total sense to me, because sometimes when we go through old stuff, or when I go through my stuff, or when I make the kids like go through drawers and like, let's see what we still need in here, and they find some older stuff, they're like, oh, and then they remembered how they liked that when they received it as a gift or when they bought that. And then they like have that intimate moment of play with it again, which is like what you're hoping when you buy it for them in the first place, right? But then what I see and feel a lot of the times, you know, my son, for example, he just wants more and more and more Hot Wheels. It's just like almost like he wants to be a millionaire, right? Like everyone just wants more. Then he has all these Hot Wheels, and they're just Hot Wheels on a pile. You know, you don't have like your special one, or, you know, you play with one for so long because you really like it. So that makes total sense what you're saying with
yeah. And
connect.
then once you can like have less stuff and build a relationship, for a child, they can just have like deeper play and get into their imagination more, instead of just like, now I notice like now that we have more and more and more of these little critters, she plays with them less,
Yeah.
because I think that like capturing that relationship and intimacy with the object and like giving it a character and like building that gets lost when there's too much. And so that's, I think, a pretty common thing to try and figure out, like, okay, this is happening, and how do we stop that from just being this wanting more and more and more and losing out on the joy of it, really, when you
Yeah.
just like get into that collecting mode. So that just come up, and we've been, since she's 2, we've been really working on clearing clutter and being aware of how much. Before, one of the things that would happen for me and with teaching her how to clean up, she had too much stuff when she was 2. Like her kitchen just had tons of fake food and tons of dishes and whatever the stuff was, there was just so much of it. And so I would just let her go to bed, and then I would take care of it because it was too overwhelming for me. And then if you think of a 2-year-old brain, like definitely going to be overwhelming for them. It's if it's an overwhelming for an adult. And so then that was getting in the way of like being able to teach her good habits. And so once I was able to figure out like, oh, we have way too much stuff, and I really pared it down to a few plates, few pans, cups, like a tea set. It just was like so minimal. And I was a little bit worried because we were like the house. Oh, if you remember, we were the house that everyone come over and play, and the kitchen was a big popular area. So I wondered like, will we have enough stuff still? And we did. And it was better play than all this fake food and all these things flying around, and like the play just getting dispersed rather than like connected. And
Oh.
they start just like making restaurant and having roles of, you know, the older kid writing down the food and making it up and using their imagination more, and being able then to put it away and develop that habit so that they are learning for the future, and then it can be more calm and they have the habits that they need. And you're feeling better too.
And this makes so much sense. And as you're just saying this, and with having done like the work with emotional acceptance with parents, and as you're just saying, you know, it was overwhelming to us, but as parents, we're the ones who buy, or other relatives, right, who buy more presents and things and stuff all the time. Just had me make this connection in my head about, you know, us getting them more and more things, as opposed to having them go through the discomfort of temporary boredom until, like you said, better play comes out, is like maybe connected to our sense of lack or guilt or shame or fear of not being a good enough parent. So we'll have to get them more things, which now that you're explaining this is actually like counter, you know, what's the word? Counterproductive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like we parents don't want to go through the discomfort of thinking we might not be good enough as a parent, or we might not spend enough time with them as a parent. So we buy them more and more stuff. and that it inhibits them from better play. So isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And the other thing for me personally, I grew up like extreme poverty, so I didn't have very much stuff. And after this experience with my daughter, I'm really appreciating that way of growing up, and wanting, for me, it was definitely like I want her to have everything she wants. Like, because I didn't have everything I wanted. And so I wanted that for her. And now I'm kind of rethinking that of how she's missing out on um, some opportunity to just have less and appreciate more.
Yeah.
But definitely what you're saying, like everything we do as parent is like rooted into our own past or like our feelings about ourselves. And that can also get in the way of letting go of clutter and being able to navigate how much stuff to have and how much, like, what gifts do you give and what do you keep and let go and how do you do it. And it's so emotionally complicated to
Totally.
like to make those decisions. And that's definitely why people come to me for support, is because making so many decisions that are so emotional, that maybe it seems like, oh, it's just getting rid of stuff, no big deal. Anyone could do that. Just putting stuff back where it goes, no big deal. But it is a big deal because what you're talking about is like, am I worthy? And a lot of times when you look around and see like there's clutter everywhere, and then it's like getting out of the house, we're like yelling at each other or stress, and then you're feeling like a failure, like not the parent that you want to be because of how things have become. And
Yeah,
so then having support with that is necessary to overcome, because it's deeper than just on the physical.
totally. That makes so much sense. And it's actually going to where I wanted to ask you next too, is like, and also getting more into the, the title of our life today, of how does it improve relationship, but also before we get into that, or relationships, probably with yourself, your children, and your partner if you have one. But before that, like, and I know you talk to a ton of people every week about their clutter and cleanup problems or issues. So what are like if somebody's watching this and they're like, I don't know if I have a problem with clutter, or if this is something that I should be watching for in my life a little more, like what are some of the common things that people come to you with and that they have, bothering them, or what are like their main issues in life, and where is it holding them back? I mean, you already mentioned a little bit in the beginning, like getting out of the house, but what are some of the other ones too? Maybe just more generalized too.
Okay, so a big thing, they get on the phone and they're just like, I have too much stuff. And then we kind of dig down, and it is, affecting probably every area of their life. And maybe they didn't realize how it's spilling over into different areas of maybe their kids can't have friends over because the parent feels ashamed of the situation at home. And so you feel overwhelmed about, you tried maybe to get rid of clutter, but then it comes back, and maybe you're having to rebuy different things because you can't find them. And so then there's like more, like when you can't find stuff in your house that you use regularly, that's a big sign of a problem with clutter. Just like a big sense of overwhelm and feeling like failure, like I mentioned, it's like you can't get on top of things, and then it's getting in the way of the relationships that I was saying. So maybe you're yelling at your kids more than you want to, or maybe, I talk to a lot of people that, maybe they would have a housekeeper come and help with cleaning, but then they can't like clear the clutter enough for a housekeeper to come. And so then that might be preventing from having people over. Or sometimes you have people over and it's like your bedroom or your closed door areas, the kind of
Yeah.
purgatory for stuff. And your bedroom is really a concern if you're having a lot of clutter in your bedroom, for a couple reasons. I mean, intimacy, if you have a partner, I mean, even with yourself, is one thing that gets blocked. And also sleep. When you have too much clutter, it can keep you awake because cortisol is like regulates your sleep. And so you need it to wake up, but if you have too much, you can't go to sleep. And so if you're having sleep problems and can't find stuff at your nightstand and that's like piled with stuff, or you're like piling your clothes in places and don't know, are they dirty or clean, or that. And so then it's getting in the way of feeling like rested. And then you're like more snippy because you're not getting the rest you need. And you might have creative passions that you used to do and you don't have space for it now. And maybe it's stuff you want to do for yourself, or maybe it's stuff you want to do with your kids, but then it's like, oh, I have to clear this before we can do the project, and then it's a mess, and then you're not doing the project because it's too overwhelming to even do it. And so then you're maybe going out and spending money on doing things out of the house rather than being able to do things at home, or so then you're missing out on your own creativity as well. And just like a sense of calm, like being able to just relax in your own home, like if those things. And I definitely have clients who say like, well, if you came over, you wouldn't necessarily know. And so you could even have not that bad of a clutter problem, but still feel the effect of it, if that makes sense, that you've gone through it, but it's not quite there.
Your own standard, right? Like it might still stress you out, even if it doesn't necessarily look like. I have like right now, I have a ton of things here on the floor, and it's not bothering me because I know they're like packages that have to go somewhere. They're like, I've sorted them, they're off to be transported into different closets or paper piles. So paper piles already sounds clever, but I swear it's not that bad.
Well, that's a big difference of when you feel that confidence. Yeah, my house gets messy. I have a family. I have people coming and going. I have things happening, and we're like love cooking and love doing art projects and making messes, and that's part of life. And when you can just bring that in and have place for it and have an absolute confidence that you can clean it up and it's going to be like maybe 10 minutes and then everything is good, and you have that confidence and you have that routine and rhythm, and you're just, oh yeah, this is going to go here, that's taken care of. I think for people that don't have that sense of confidence when something gets out of whack, or when it just feels overwhelming to have all this stuff that I haven't gotten to that, and then you just have this visual to-do list that kind of,
yeah, it's like always sitting in the back of your head, right?
Right. So you have the mental one, but then
ours is a mess. Yeah, that room is a mess. That closet I don't even want to open. That chest of drawers better stay closed forever, right?
Right.
You have that, it kind of looks fine, but you have it all in the back of your head. Oh, those are all things I need to address at some point.
Right. For the future. Oh, yeah. And then you're like procrastinating because that's what you do with clutter. Oftentimes it's because you just put it down here for a minute and then then it piles up the next things, and procrastinating to put it in the future where, oh, I'll get to that when I have the time, I have the whatever thing in the future when life is like easier, and
which it never is somehow.
Yeah, it's just like pushing, what's that, like kicking the ball forward or whatever, like,
yeah,
that it doesn't happen unless you just decide now is the time to be able to get on top of it. And yeah,
totally. So when you take people through your process and help them and work with them through, it's not like a one-time thing. Like you said, there's so many things involved, right? And psychologically, emotionally, physically. So once people are through with you through the process, like what are some of the things they report or really, really see consistently?
Definitely, I feel like the most proud I am of it is they don't feel overwhelmed anymore, regardless of what's going on. I've definitely worked with people in the middle of very extreme life situations, like having to find home for their child, and really extreme situations, and to be able to have a sense of confidence and calm in the home front. And
Mm.
so like things are getting their places, there's routine and pattern, and there's also space for yourself to have quiet moments and to recollect to yourself. And so that's, I think, a really big piece of it. Recently someone was saying that she really realized that she could choose to live in joy and not always fear. And
Mm.
so that was a really powerful one. But I think just like absolute confidence with your stuff and knowing nothing's wrong with you, you're not a failure, that just takes some little like rhythm and routine and habit transformation, and that you can have cleared spaces, that you can have guests over spontaneously. That was a big one for a client that had been like drowning in clutter. She had 3 kids and just felt like couldn't get on top of it. And by the time we were done clearing the clutter and kind of creating the systems in her life, that she was able to, at one point, the kids were at the playground and she could have a spontaneous play date back at their house because it started to rain or something happened. And that was like a huge breakthrough, that just anytime someone could come over and there wouldn't be any shame or embarrassment or like shoving stuff in the corner while you're
Excuse me, I swear my house doesn't
so,
always look like this.
right. And so that's why it's like really about that relationship. And then I had such a good example myself this morning. My daughter has been sick and I let her sleep in. Actually, we all slept in like 20 minutes past when we usually get up. And I was totally calm. We all got everything we needed to do, like breakfast, lunch, grab all the stuff, do her hair, toothbrush, getting dressed, and like all the morning things that we have a really good routine. So it's not stressful, but I thought it could be if we're like crunched for time. And it ended up being really sweet and connected, and we all got everything done in time. And I feel like that's a testament to the clutter in the relationships and noticing your emotions and like dealing with that. So many pieces that go into having a good morning routine, but that it is possible, and things set up in the environment to support it, and things set up in habits to support it, and also just the family. We all have our jobs, we all support each other to do it, and kind of keep on track of where you are, what time it is that we're leaving, and really able to remain calm and connected in that stressful time, I think is a big shift. And not everyone, like I was saying earlier, I did not grow up that way, that it was every morning stressful. And so relationships were strained, because if you're spending that much time and stress and like pressure and late and then
I remember that
like
too. Yeah, from my childhood too, but also from my kids. Like, and I'm not sure. It's like I think it's a mixture of with me, because I've never been like super cluttered, but there's definitely times when children are smaller and it's not such a big priority. Like you said, then we do not know always where things are, and but also a mixture of me having done way more of my own work and just being very much more calm in myself, which is like a mixture of many things. Like you said, like some people it's like a lot of clutter. For me, it was like a lot of internal stuff that was cluttering me, that I needed to clean up. And so the mornings can now actually be sweet, right? And even when there is, like this morning I had to yell because they just got into dreamland, and instead of packing their food and water bottles into the backpack, they were doing somersaults on the couch. And I was like, and then they were, so I had to raise my voice, but it wasn't from this place of complete being desperate and mad and angry. It's just like I needed to be louder because they were like in dreamland. So to me, that feels better. And they're not then so upset about it too, because then I can right away say, I'm not mad at you. It's just we need to keep going. And so like, and same too, you know, when you have a partner or a spouse, and like you are calm on the inside for whatever reason, you know, be it from you have finally cleared your clutter and have an organized system that helps you like keep that home in that way. You can just have like actual sweet morning connected routine with everyone, you know, kids, partner, or, you know, even yourself. That's like a good one always too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And what you said earlier too is like so important to me too. And I feel that especially in my bedroom, but also when I come into my house or anywhere else in my house, is like my home is where I want to be able to like my nervous system wants to unwind here. And I work from home too. So it's always like there's a lot of mixed emotions around the home already, right? Sometimes like we get sick of being at home so much because we're already working from here, but then when we come back here from somewhere else, but no matter what it is, and especially the bedroom, there's like our like, and when we're in fight or flight, or there's now some people also call it fight, flight, and freeze, because oftentimes, but anyway, that, you know, sympathetic nervous system where everything's like cortisol and drama and stress, then all our physical stuff can't heal. Then we end up with anxiety more and more, and all these things, they're so related. So I'm so glad you could like point us today toward, you know, how the clutter in the home, and not having like the home that needs to be our space of almost vacation, right? Or
Right. Or like your sanctuary away, because the world is like stressful enough, and getting out and doing things and coming home to just be able to relax and not feel guilty and just feel good and connected and at ease in the home. And being able to set that up for yourself is so essential.
yeah. So last question for you, uh, and then see if you have like something you want to end with too. But what is it with this whole, it never ends, you know, the kitchen work never ends, the laundry never ends, like is there anything that can be done, like to anything that you can share about that? I mean, it literally
Yeah, definitely simplifying, so you're not having too much, like especially with laundry, even in the kitchen too. Like when you're able to pare down to what you need, and it's not too much and not too little, it's just the right amount of stuff and the right amount of laundry, it's not going to go away. And I think a big shift can be your attitude about it and your gratitude of, oh, I have enough food to feed my family. I have these clothes that we can put on, and like shifting your perspective of that Sisyphus of constant, you know, doing, making food, cleaning, doing this, like doing laundry all the time. Really, even with one child, I'm doing laundry all the time. And finding ways to bring joy to it. And maybe that's easy in the kitchen if you love to cook, and that's really obviously a connected thing to do. But in bringing that in with the laundry, and some people maybe they watch Netflix or something, and having it be maybe a family activity, and people have different roles and there's teamwork involved, and yeah, just including our kids in different parts of doing those things and making it family. And so that's not just like a big dread of, you know, one day you won't have so much laundry. One day your kids will be gone, or, you know, one day we won't be alive and our stuff will be like, we won't be dealing with that. That sounds so dramatic, but it is like for paper, I think paper is a big one that a lot of people really dread. But then once you're not getting bills, you're not getting mail, and life going in the world as it does, like this is part of what we're here and what's happening. And that's when that's done, it's done. Like this is just part of it, and trying to enjoy all the pieces of what is here for us is, you know, to be able to shift the attitude and the gratitude of those things, and bringing joy into it, and bringing some strategy and ways of systems for paperwork, or the things that get you like this again. And you know, there's ways to bring some calm and joy even to the things that you dread.
that is such a wonderful perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. Is there anything that you'd like to end with? And obviously we'll put the link to your website in the comments too if people want to reach you. But is there anything else that you'd like to share to end this with?
Oh, I feel like I need something so profound.
Or
But
simple.
or simple, yeah. Just go with simple. That's my thing. Yeah, I mean, I think this time in the world where, I mean, we just had this conversation with my husband. We had lived in an apartment in San Francisco that was built in the 30s or something, and they just had one electric, whatever it's called, outlet in each room.
Mm.
So we had to have some more put in. And I just felt like the other day we were thinking of that because we have like all these cords, like all these things plugged in. We're like, we need more cords to plug in. And just kind of thinking of how to bring back that simplicity of like when we didn't need so much stuff, and how we're still like the same human. And so being able to really, I don't know, connect with that, what's possible when you minimize the chaos around you, and that you can connect with yourself and God or the universe, some kind of spirit, and have more sense of calm at home, and raising a family with that more sense of calm. Because like I was saying with the toys, they're just everywhere and really easy to just be bombarded with so much from the outside, and really wanting to um, create that inner will and being able to create the life how you want it to, and know that you have control internally, and it's not just all going to come at you, but you have ways to choose what you have. And also, you know, we went to our parent teacher meeting the other night, and we have a teacher that teaches a movement kind of class, it's eurythmy, and the teacher said, I just hope to be, every day I hope to be someone who is worth imitating. And so if you have children, particularly, like stepping into that person to be worth imitating, and having that joy of doing the dishes and the laundry, and kind of shifting your perspective and being the person who actually puts your shoes in the right place, and instead of noticing like when, oh, my daughter's shoes are right in the wrong place next to mine that are in the wrong place, and realizing how much we can kind of notice what we're doing and make a different choice to be the person who's worth imitating, is part of that clearing clutter and simplifying and making those choices. So
Love it. Powerful and simple thing to remember, to just be a person worth imitating, and especially for children, but I feel like also for everyone else we interact with, right? If we are just a person who lives to our highest standard, then we can inspire. Like all of our blah blah is like blah blah, right? But what we live, right? And that's why people who are not living their advice is not going to go very far, right? Like a sick person giving health advice, everyone's going to say, you know, why would I believe you? You're not even healthy. So that's just a really beautiful thing to remember every day, that, you know, for our children, be a person worth imitating and looking up to. Awesome.
For sure. And to clarify, like I was saying, my house gets messy. I know I'm definitely not about perfection. I'm more about connection, and like knowing and accepting things are going to be a little bit, you know, my daughter did an art project yesterday. It was messy and there was stuff around, and then we cleaned it up. But, you know, so that you don't have to be perfect to be a good leader, but you can do the best you can to do the best you can, and be walking that path and still.
And teaching the process, as opposed to having a showcase home where we get mad when stuff is like not in its place temporarily.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today, Christine. This was awesome. And I'm always happy when we can have these conversations, because it's just always so amazing to talk with you. And I hope this was really helpful and useful to those of you who watched. And thanks, Josh and Laura and Missy, I saw are watching. So we could have greeted you earlier, but we were in the middle of flow. So I felt like I didn't want to interrupt the flow, and we're very glad you watched. And if you're catching this later, I'm hoping this is helpful to you too. We'll put Christine's info, I think probably best to your website, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever you feel. We'll put
Yeah,
it.
and there's the free workshop you can watch, and then a link to book a call with me if this is something that you feel like you need support with and you're ready to be done with procrastination
Yeah.
and get on top of all the things.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes. We'll
thanks
do
so much.
that.
It was
We'll
awesome.
do it after. And yeah, happy Friday to you all. Happy Friday to you, Christine. And we'll talk
You.
soon.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.